we are not condemned by the choices that other people have made in their own lives.
Right.
So, for example, this supposed statistic that 50% of marriages end in divorce, which is basically made up, but let's just pretend that it's true for a moment. It's like, okay, but that's not my marriage, okay? Because that statistic is being weighed down by a whole bunch of people who made all the worst choices, and their marriages failed very quickly. And so that's how you come up with a 50% statistic. But if you do basic things, like, for example, if you're religious, if you just spend time together, if you listen to each other, if you're honest with each other.
The great advice Andrew Klavan gives to young men: don't have sex with people who aren't your wife.
Right. If you do basic things, if you do basic things like that, your chances of not getting divorced are much, much better. So you don't, just the fact that this has happened to so many other people really has no bearing on you and your own life.
The problem these old boomers don't understand is how vastly different it is now. It isn't nearly as simple as, you just need to spend more time with her, bro. Or did you try praying harder? Because let me tell you, once she changes her mind, there isn't enough prayers in the world that are going to fix it. And this whole podcast would just boomer cope in a world they don't understand. I'm surprised they didn't throw out, have you tried showering and wearing a clean shirt? But the best advice they can give you is, have you tried listening more? Is that the new wearing a clean shirt? All these people grew up in an era where the internet didn't exist. Women weren't in the workforce as much, and really everybody's options were more limited. And that's really the main difference, the limitations. The internet unshackled all of it. Before, people were limited to their town or the next town over. Not to mention everyone was way more religious and held that standard. But now with women earning enough to support themselves for the most part, and the internet opening up access to basically everybody in the world, now instead of keeping up with the Joneses, you have to keep up with the 1%. And that's an impossible standard for mostly everybody. And that's something Matt and these other guys don't understand because they're in it. These guys aren't interested in helping men. They just want to smoke their cigars and moral grandstand over you. They ignore every stat just because they would torpedo their arguments and apply their own anecdotal evidence to everybody else. Like that's the solution. And I'm sure in some situations, Matt, you are right. But do you really think divorce rates would be this high just because people weren't listening to each other? So if you want to ignore everybody else's marriage, why shouldn't we ignore yours? Because I for sure know some people that are miserable in their marriage and other guys that did it right, but yet they still got divorced. So it's not nearly as simple as you're making it out to be. So if these people were really interested in saving marriage, instead of getting on goofy podcasts where you just browbeat men, wagging your finger, telling them to shape up, mister, how about you go after the laws that incentivize divorce, or even add in exterior layers that make marriage even harder to do. So not any pair of two goofies with $50 can get married. None of these things will really stop what's coming, and that is the inevitability that everyone will just be with their own AI partners. But at least it will look like you guys are doing more of a good faith arguments over ignoring all the stats, and the men on here trying to help guide men through this, while dishing out outdated 1992 marriage advice.